Okay, given it as I don't really have too deep of an opinion. I do, however, believe that this idealism that could be potentially with only women at this time to send out their husbands or men or whatever, and for the mothers to kind of see the aftermath ahead of time and to kind of have second thoughts about this idea of patriotism or nationalism, that's just seemingly blind. I think it's pretty interesting because it's like, the women live in idealism and the men, I mean, perhaps for this man, he was very, 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 kind of like he wanted to support his woman, and even though their their union was not based on anything particularly grounded, it was just kind of like they left the concert and he asked her out, and I just find it quite interesting how she's like she's wanting to have him. It's almost like she likes the thought of him, and she's projecting this ideal onto him, and that he of course he had different ideas about who he wanted to be, and she had another idea, listening to these newspapers, and considering like the great ideal to be to come in war and essentially serve your country, like the idea of patriotism. But isn't that patriotism at work? To serve your country because they need service, and so it's just for the war that was there. It's just it calls for soldiers, and whether it's voluntary or the draft, it's like it kind of makes me wonder even today, like, how do we feel about war? I like to think many of us don't really support war so much because it's similar. It's almost like we've taken heed, sort of, to the perspective of the mother of the young man's mother, and his name is Garrison. Mr. Garrison. And so it's interesting because it's like just as much as it's interesting that he had thoughts and ideals and he submitted them to his lady, his woman, Editha, who's producing these patriotic ideas. It's very interesting how we have listened to the mother, his mother, the person who died, his mother, and it's like we're kind of like anti-war almost. Now you hit, it's definitely mixed in this country because it's like you have people who have shared these similar sentiments. War is glorious. Well, maybe not war is glorious, but the support of your country is a glorious thing. And some people see like okay, war is carnage. War is troubling. War produces PTSD. War has a lot of things in it, and it's just like that dynamic of like, do you need war? And you might need war because you live in a country and you have other countries you might have to fight against, and it's like, okay, you need these volunteers to actually show that military might, and whether it's led by small things like patriotism, some may consider it big, but I say it's figurative, or you can actually suggest it's based off incentive, like okay, you can join the military, if you go on active duty, your pay's better, you go to different places, you can join, go to different countries, have an overall experience as a soldier. And even before then, that if it's not going to be indoctrination outside, it's going to be the indoctrination from civilian to soldier inside. And so they teach you that sense of patriotism within these ranks. And it's like, it's like a reinforcing thing, a reinforcement of these ideals. Again, from what I can understand, country needs a military force to defend itself. Otherwise, a greater force will just essentially dominate them. Will show off their military might, and there's not really much that nation can do. Excuse me, but in these times we presume ourselves to be a little bit more smarter. So it's like, yeah, we can talk about this and stuff, but sometimes some things can't be argued. Ultimately, this title is called Editha, and even despite her mother, who's the recipient of war, who's the indirect recipient of war, given like her husband or late husband in war, she knew her son sent him that message to tell him that he was gonna die, to send Editha and her father her way if he had to die. So he knew he wasn't gonna make it. At least that's the impression I get. He knew he wasn't gonna make it, and he's like, here, I need you. If you're not gonna try to understand me, and I get it, I'm gonna do this because I agreed, and I've said it in myself. And even if it was like coercion, like, she just kind of just pushed out onto him, like, you have to do this because I'm not gonna be with a man who's not gonna love his country. He still is almost like he knew that, like similar to kind of like, what is it? What's his name? Solomon? Is it Solomon? David. I think it's David. Where he sent that man out to die because he sought out his wife and he felt guilty, and he wanted his instead of like, he's like, I want you to sleep with this woman so that she won't know the difference, and he's like, no, I have to serve you, so he's, in a sense, it's kind of ironic because he's trying to be, instead of clinging to home to defend this man's adultery, he's willing to be nationalistic, and he's like, okay, to abstain from this, we're going to send this guy in the front lines. Now, it's very, 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 like, a reach. Definitely a reach. But it's kind of interesting how blind nationalism, it brings a sense of caution versus this, versus in the Bible, there's a sense of just like, I can't say it's blind. It could be blind, just as much of blind nationalism, but it's like, that nationalism got him killed, even if it was meant to cover for his wrongs, cover for David's wrongs. So it's like, a country needs to service it. The serviceman the people have to service this country, right? Like, don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, right? And it's like, you live here, you take the things in, you have to. I mean, it would make sense that it would be a precedent. It would be something that is honorable to serve your country, because you live here, you serve here, you follow the rules here. And even then, I think it's just as much, especially in America, to even disagree, that America is not a god, and it's funny because in this story, her love of country is her God almost. She loves this country. She wants this country to be served. She's been under influence by, I guess, propaganda. At least to me, it's propaganda. Where it's like, serve your country, beat the enemy, show off your country because this is your country, and it's like, it can be glorious, but it's like, ultimately, is it like, I guess that's one of the things I like about America, because America, at least as a recipient, the people who wanted to make America and wanted to shy away from the church, Great Britain, Queen Elizabeth, whoever that person, that body of power, authority was, and they said, and some say it's Christian. I don't necessarily believe it was Christian led. I think it was Christian hoped. They prayed to the God they believed and hoped that, from defecting from their authorities, that God would protect them. That's my idea about it. But it's just simply the concept that I love my like we don't want to serve under a heavy authority like that. So you begin the Constitution, the checks and balances. So it's not just like us anymore. It's not just serving the God of this nation. It's serving the people, and the people who have organized these systems of these governments, these representatives. So it's not just like an embodiment of a government, of a singular government. It's us. You know, we make up America. You know, we make up the organizations that make America great. And that's why America is great, because it's not meant to be a tyranny. America is not meant to be a tyranny. America is meant to be a collective partnership of power. You know, that one person's bout of power does not usurp the other, and that a dictator doesn't exist. It should not exist. But that's the problem. You know, sometimes I wonder about the government. You know, but I guess that's it. You know, it's like, for me, I could consider like great things about this country, and you can consider this patriotism if you want, but America's great in the sense that it doesn't require you to blindly follow it. You should be able to consciously and have good reasons for following America, because America, in its intention, was meant to have everybody participate in the government, participate in the governing power of America. You know, you choose your representatives. Your representatives go into Congress, and not just Congress. I'm sorry, I forget the structure of things, but you have these branches, you have these checks and balances, you know, and they intermingle, and they work, and they associate, and they compromise. And I feel like we've lost that consciousness of power, that consciousness of the individual, and not just the individual, but like what we can do at the ground level. Because I think we can do plenty of things at the ground level. You just need to be aware of what that is. But I'm rambling. I think I've been rambling, but I think it's very helpful to see our perspective on it, to not just blindly follow a country. I don't think that's proper, but I think it's also good to have an understanding as to why nationalism isn't evil. It's just misguided honor of a nation. It's just kind of like an over-poured honor of a nation. You shouldn't like the ideas of anything, because ideas can be challenged. You should be liking the reality and the actual state of what it means.